Siyanamukela ohlelweni lwe-Ithala Edu platform enilethulelwa ngezilokotho ezinhle Ithala kanye ne-GoDigitalSA Foundation. Thamelani izifundo ze-mathematics, i-accounting, isiZulu ulimi lwasekhaya, isiNgisi, i-FAL, i-physical science, i-geography, ezobuchwepheshe, i-computer applications technology kanye namaklasi e-learner wellness okungukuzilolonga ngokomqondo kanye nomzimba. Lezi zifundo zethulwa nsuku zonke kusukela ngoMsombuluko kuya ngoLwesihlanu kuqala ngehora lesi-4 kuya kwelesihlanu u-4 kuya ku-5 ntambama nangoMgqibelo kusukela ligamanxe ihora lesi-8 8:30 kuze kugamanxe ihora lokuqala emini 1:30. Zithameleni futhi lezi zifundo emsakazweni Ukhozi FM njalo ngoLwesine kusukela ngo-9 kuya ku-10 ebusuku. Ningangena ekhasini lethu lika-Facebook elithi GoDigitalSA_movement noma kwi-YouTube uthi GoDigitalSA Foundation. Siyethemba nizolijabulela lolu hlelo oluhlose ukunifundisa futhi lulekelele kulokho enikufunda ezikoleni zenu. Luthokozeleni-ke lolu hlelo nimeme nabo bonke abanye abafundi bebanga le-12 grade 12 ukuze nabo bazuze kulo futhi nonke nicijeleke ukuphumelela kwizivivinyo zenu zokuphela konyaka.
Siyanibulisa abafundi bakamatikuletsheni. Sesiphinde sabuya nesifundo se-accounting namhlanje njalo ngoMsombuluko kusukela ku-4 kuya ku-5 ntambama sikuyo lengosi ye-accounting. Namhlanje sizokwenza ama-ratios, financial statements, one of the financial statements. Masuka on the ratios, we'll be doing cash flow and then income statement, balance sheet. Question ke ezobuzwa le ama-ratios mfundi. Sizozama ukuthi ke sicobelane nawe ukuze ukwazi ukusizakala. Akweswabheke ke ama-ratios anezigaba ezahlukene. Khona isigaba sokuqala, the profitability and efficiency ratio, awu-5 ama-ratios akhona. And then bese kuba khona okay sizowalista, then bese kuba khona i-liquidity ratio, ama-ratios akhona mangabe sewonke ayisithupha 6. And then bese kuba khona ama-earnings, ama-ratios amathathu, i-EPS, i-DPS as well as i-NAV. So befuthi ngutshengisa ubudlelwane bakhona. Balekile kama-ratios ukuthi wazi, angeke kube yiphepha le-accounting ngaphandle kwama-ratio, ahlale khona ngaso sonke isikhathi. Into enhle ke akhona na-paper 1, akhona futhi na-paper 2. Mangabe uthi uyawazi mfundi uzoyithuka ethubeni ukuthi uyabenefita on paper 1 and paper 2. Uma ungawazi futhi cacile ukuthi ke uzophanisheka ku paper 1 and paper 2. Sizoqala ke siwabheke bese bakhona i-ratio ye-risk, la check khona i-risk, bese bakhona eye-solvency, and then bese bakhona ama-returns oyona hlupha kakhulu abafundi ngama-matric, i-ROSH nane-ROIS. Sogcina ngawo ke lawo kodwa nje sohamba step by step. Asiqale ngalawa alula. I-question mhlambe uma yithi comment on the profitability of the business, i-profitability and efficiency ratio. Sifuna ukuchecka la ukuthi ibhizinisi liyayenza yini i-profit. Remember elinye igama lama-ratio sithi ama-ratios noma ama-financial indicators. Shuthi iy'nkomba lezi ey'khombisa ukuthi ibhizinisi lenza i-profit noma aliyenzi i-profit noma kune-risk, mhlawumbe sithola ama-returns noma sithola ama-earnings and so on and so forth. Iy'nkomba lezi. Ibhizinisi lethu ukuze lisitshengise kufuneka lindlule kulama-test lawo. I-test le i-ratio, i-test silakho umuntu odriver emgaqweni uma ngabe e-indicate la ngakwesobunxele ngaka-right nangaka-left. So that's why kuthiwa ama-financial indicators. Siyabona ibhizinisi ukuthi likiphi i-position. Remember, financial indicators is one of the financial statements. Financial statements, we are doing it once a year. It's like income statement, balance sheet, notes of the balance sheet, cash flow, as well as audit report. Asiyenze on a monthly basis like ama-ledger accounts and the journals. Senza on a yearly basis. Okay, let's have a look here on the profitability and efficiency ratio. Other books that are saying it's just a profitability, others that are saying profitability and efficiency ratio. We set another term for AMA ratio sitini, AMA financial indicators. Financial indicators, very important. AMA indicators lawa azosibonisa ukuthi business lenze njani i-performance yalo, financial indicators. So asimpuli ke lawa we-profitability and efficiency ratio akufuneki nanokuthi uze mhlambe ukreme iformula yakhona, iformula i-ratio yakhona vele gross profit on sales or turnover. Elinye igama lama sales sithi ama turnover. So the formula is there on the ratio itself. So which means here we have gross profit divided by sales or turnover. Sales times by 100 over 1. The answer esizoyithola lapha i-percentage, something percent. I-ratio yokuqala le, gross profit on sale. So which means we are saying gross profit divided by turnover. Okay. Size kwi-ratio yesibili. Kuwona i-group njalo ye-profitability and efficiency ratio. Right, i-gross profit on cost of sales. So la i-formula yakhona with gross profit divided by cost of sales. Cost of sales times by 100 over 1. The answer ifuneka ikhiphele i-percentage. Awu 5 ke lama ratio lawa asize kwes 3. The third one, operating expense. Operating expenses on sale. You can say on sale or turnover. Right, the formula is very simple. We are saying operating divided by sales, operating expenses. Operating expenses divided by sales. Mfundi ke kufuneke uwazi ama ratio. Njoba ngisho njena if bungathanda ama ratio, please inhlizweni yakho we have to create a space, uvule lapha space ukuthi ama ratio from today ngiyawathanda. Okay, because azobuzwa. And then as for we are saying operating profit or operating income. Okay, let's say operating income. Operating income on sale. On sale, remember sometimes they can say on sale or turnover, right? Operating on sale or turnover. Sizophinde futhi sibheke ukuthi yiziphi izinto ezisimilar la. What are the common factors among these ratios? Okay. We are saying here operating income divided by sales times by 100 over 1. So the answer is something percent. Siqhubeke ke mfundi siye kweyogcina i-ratio kuyona le group le i-net profit on sale. Yes 5 le net profit on sale. So formula is very simple. It's on the ratio itself. We are saying net profit. Remember, net profit, it's the last amount there. Net profit divided by sales. So the answer is something percent. Okay, let's have a look. Aswabheke lama ratio ke ukuthi ke bukuphi ubudlelwane kulama ratios lawo. ubudlelwane lama ratio ukuthi bukuphi. Into la common noma ufune kuyazi zintathu izinto ufune ukuzazi mfundo uma wenza ama ratio. Ufune wazi ukuthi ibelonga kephi igroup, njengoba sengishilo ukuthi onke lama ratio lawa akwe profitability and efficiency ratio. Let me just say A lapha ngingasho ukuthi number 1. Let me say A. It's a group A. Profitability and efficiency ratio. Let's say A. So your group le yama profitability and efficiency ratio. Question uma yithi comment using financial indicators or using the ratio about the profitability and efficiency of the business. These are the ratios that you must use, right? So what is the common here? Okay, njengoba kade ngisho ukuthi yini into ofuneke uyazi uma wenza ama ratios. Imbuzo ewu3 kufuneka wazi ukuthi akiphi igroup, njengoba sengishilo lawa onke akwi profitability and efficiency ratio. Uphinde wazi nane formula. Formula is very important. Kodwa kulawa simple kakhulu lawa. There's no need ukuthi ungaziwazi iformula lapha because i-ratio ngokwayo ine formula. And then bese wazi ukuthi uyithatha phi information. Like uma ubheka yonke le information ithathwa kephi kwi-income statement, right? Income statement. All this sometimes ngeke uyinikezwe i-income statement, the entire income statement. You'll be given a brief income statement, noma just a brief, income statement that is suitable for you to do these ratios, right? An extract, yes, I want that term, an extract income statement. They call it an extract. Income statement nje ecashuniwe ukuthi ukwazi ukuthi wenze lama ratios. And then okugcina bese uyazi yini ucalculator, ucalculator i-percentage, ama days, time, yonke lonto leyo. So njengalapha nje sibala i-percentage la wonke lama ratios lawa. Very important. Kodwa ke ungalenzi iphutha ke mfundi, uma ngabe usuku exam awusayibhala iformula, ubhala ama figures in line with the formula. Ungayibhala iformula uma useclassini upractice noma mhlambe uma usekhaya ufuna ukupractice. Kodwa ke mangathi wasekuyabhala uzobhala ifigure ye gross profit divide by sales times by 100 divide by 1. And then uthole i-percentage. Ungabusayibhala iformula. Ngiya emphasize on that one, ngiyagcizelela. Ungayibhali iformula ngeke uzoqeda ukubhala i-accounting mawenza kanjalo. Ayinama marks futhi nje ube waste of time. Okay, asiqhubeke ke mfundi siye kwi group yesibili sekona njalo ama ratios ngoba i-topic yethu namhlanje sithe ama ratios. Siya ku B manje ngizothi B for the second group, i-group yesibili. B, okay. B asithi that is a liquidity. Let's go to the liquidity. Sometimes uzothola equation kuthiwa define what is liquidity for 2 marks. What is liquidity? Okay, let's just define it. What is liquidity? Occurs whereby the business is having the problems in a short run. That is liquidity. Occurs whereby the business is having problem in a short run. That is the liquidity. Occurs whereby the business is having problems or challenges, problems in the short run. Balekile kakhulu ke lokho mfundi. Ufuna uyazi definition ye liquidity, right? Occurs whereby the business is having a problem in a short run. Yabo nje uma ngabe mhlambe uyazi i-business cycle lapha kwa grade 9 uzosho ukuthi iyafana nani ne recession. Angisho yazi i-recession whereby country is facing a crisis nje okwesikhashana. Yes, it's the same definition again nala. Liquidity occurs whereby the business, but now we are referring to the business now, not to the country, to the business where if like is facing the problems in a short run. Okay, we said nama ratios akhona awu 6 ke in total. Siqale ngokuqala ke liquidity. Let's say 1, we have current ratio. Kumbula sithe elinye igama lama ratios sithi yini? Ama financial indicators. These are financial indicators. Inkomba lezi ebhizinisini ekhombayo ukuthi ibhizinisi liyawa noma lithule noma lenza iprofit inzuzo, right? Inkomba lezi ukuze ukwazi ukubona lokho kufanele usebenzise ama ratios ukwazi ukubona ukuthi akune risk la, kune profit la, kune liquidity la. Equation ke bayithanda ke le question lena ethi comment about the liquidity position of the business. Right, so kufanele uyazi ke ukuthi okay nanka ama ratio la ufuneke ngiwasebenzisa. Ayisali lo question leyo bayithanda kakhulu. Comment about the liquidity position of the business. Bayinokubuza ke kabili ngizophinde ngibonise mangabe sesiqedile ukuthi ithini enye question around illiquidity. Okay, current ratio iformula yakhona is current assets. Okay, current assets is to current liabilities. So you are always calculating the prefix. Everything is to 1. Okay, I'll come and we'll do a comment later. Current ratio. This is a current ratio there. We are saying current assets is to divide by current liabilities, but the way we are writing, so when you always calculate the left hand side, you know the answer is to 1. Maybe it can be 2 is to 1. Okay, then we'll come on that one later. For instance, let's say we have EG here, maybe 2 is to 1. Okay, so which means we are owing our creditors 1. Tina we are having 2. Okay, we'll come to that one later. For now, let's get right the principle. And then a ratio is Billy on the same group of liquidity. The second ratio, it's acid test ratio. Right, acid test. Acid test, or we are saying it's a quick, not quick soup, but quick ratio. Right? Acid test or quick ratio, right? There's another term. You can say do quick ratio or acid test. Laba ratio lawa we said 6, ayisithupha. Kahle kahle awekho 6 ama ratio mawabheka, 3. If wazi 3 yakhona, it's obvious because angabangani akhona afanayo 2 iyafana, set of 2. Yabo nje lesiyenzayo iumngani ka current ratio. Nakhona uthi current assets, okay, current assets less inventory, that is a trading stock now, is to current liability. Right, so the answer is to 1. Same thing njengalapha leyathi siyenza ekuqaleni ye current ratio. Yabo umehluko nje la ukuthi you less inventory. I mean, remember ke inventory i trading stock. Another term for the trading stock is inventory or merchandise stock, right? Let's say here a ratio it's 1,5 is to 1. Okay, for example. Okay, then let's go to the ratio number 2, still on liquidity. The second one, second illiquidity. The third one, not the second one. Third, stock turnover rate. Stock turnover rate, or sometimes it's a rate of stock turnover. Stock turnover rate or rate of stock turnover, it's one and the same thing, right? What are we calculating here? We are calculating time, right? For how long we are quick in terms of selling the stock, right? So the formula here, it's It's very simple. This one is similar to this one. Let me just do also simultaneous noma ngiwenze kanye kanye so that uzobona ubudlelwane between the two, right? We have another one, stock holding period. Stock holding period. Ama ratios lawa omabili angabangani ayafana mfundi nama ratios lawa. Njengoba ngishilo nje ayisithupha lama ratio ufuna ukwazi even noma ngathiwa uyavuswa ebusuku ngo12 kuthiwa can you just name any liquidity ratio ukuthi uyawazi ngoba uzobuzwa wona, right? Asibheke lapha ku stock rate of stock turnover. Okay, the formula here, it's cost of sales divided by average stock, right? Average stock. Remember, masikhuluma nge-average mfundi sithatha ama-ratios, sithatha i-stock sa last year sihlanganise nesa this year, we divide ngo-2. That's an average. For instance, maybe let's say we're having 2019 trading stock plus 2020 divided by 2. That's an average. That is our denominator here. So our answer here, it would be something time. Maybe let's say it would be 7.5 times. Okay. Okay. The answer is something time. Sibala isikhathi lapha ixesha nanko ngesotho. Right. So that is the cost of sales. It ngenze umzekelo, e.g. cost of sales. Remember, a cost of sales we are taking from the income statement, right? Njengoba ngishilo ngathi into ebaleke kakhulu mfundi kuma ratios noma kulezi inkomba lezi ze business ufune wazi ukuthi ubala ini, ikiphi group nanokuthi information uyithathaphi because uzoyinikezwa information kwi question paper nanokuthi yini le oyibalayo. Njengalapha sibala isikhathi la, right? I ratio kahle kahle so ufuna ukucheck ukuthi for how long it takes us to sell stock. Are we quick or are we slow, right? So and then divide by the average. The average njengoba sengishilo, for instance, let's say here it was 2019, that is last year, trading stock plus 2020 trading stock. You add this one, you divide by 2 or half, right? And then you get your answer in terms of time, right? It's time there. Okay. So le ratio le umngani wale stock holding period, right? Like njengamanje njena we are approaching some most yezitolo noma of the businesses, they will mark down their price lokuthiwa khona ama sale maybe on the first Saturday ka August because they have to bring the new stock for summer now, right? So if now you still have a lot of winter clothes as a business person around this time, there will be a crisis because people a few weeks from now people want to buy summer clothes, right? Then the stock holding again, it's also a friend of stock turnover. It's just an opposite. You see, denominator here will become a numerator, vice versa, right? So which means here we're having what? Average stock divide by cost of sales. Ake siyabona ke ukuthi laphana wenza i-opposite yaleya ratio le lapha ngenhla okuthiwa i-stock turnover. Yikho kade ngithi ama ratios ayafana. Kodwa umehluko la usuzotimes manje ngo365 or 366. Remember this year question paper yakho zokuye umini uyibhala because u2020 lo nyaka uthiwa i-leap year will be timesing about 366 days, right? Njalo nje emva kweminyaka emine noma after 4 years kuba khona i-leap year, right? The last time sine leap year kwaku 2016, then manje 2020 ezayo would be 2024 as well as 2028, right? And then your answer will be something days. So ubala insuku la stock system, stock holding, right? Stock holding period. Maybe it can be, maybe let's say we keep stock for with 3 months, that is 90 days, or we keep stock for 60 days, or we keep stock, maybe let's say we are quick in terms of selling the stock. Stock will just take 45 days, 35 days, or 30 days, right? So if you want to check that, you must use the stock holding period, right? Okay, let's go to other two friends ratios. Amanye futhi afanayo ukugcina u4 and 5, and then besendlulela kwenye igroup. Okay, then now futhi sowenza kanye kanye or simultaneously ngolimi lwa maths, right? So we have data's average collection, data's average collection period. Okay, so when nani the creators payment. Okay, that is the 6th one. Creditors average payment period. Okay, mfundi, remember data. Yini data? Data is someone who's owing us, who's owing the business. So, and then if awusakhokheli bese sithi you are a bad debt, but awuveli nje ube i-bad debt from nowhere. Uqala ube i-data, so which means terms and conditions apply, and then bese uthi awusakhokheli bese sithi you are a bad one, so you expense lapho. So that's why for someone who's a debtor, we have to collect. So that's why here it's average, data's average collection. So we have to collect from someone who's owing us. So we collect here, we collect average collection. So on the creditors, creditors are people that supply us on credit, bought goods on credit. It's creditors control. So we have to pay for these people who supply us, right? So that's why it's payment. That's why it's collection. Okay, let's go now and do the ratio, the formula. So we're saying the average debtors, so which means our debtors are last year plus our this year divide by 2. If let's say unezwe iminyaka emithathu uzoqala from 2018, 2019, 2020, but most of the time you are always given 2 years, right? But if we are given 3 years, nakhona funeka udivide ngo3. If we are given 4 years, udivide ngo4, right? So average debtors divide by credit sales. Very important. Credit sales. Okay, ngizothanda ukuthi ngigcizeleleke lento yama credit sales ngoba ngeke mhlambe bakunikeza ama credit sales, maybe uzonikezwa cash sales and then bese uyabayela wena ama credit sales. Okay, times by 365 or 366 over 1. So i-answer yethu la will be something days. Sibala insuku ukuthi uthatha isikhathi esingakanani ukuthi abantu abasikweledayo basikhokhele. So masifuna ukubala lokho senzisa le ratio le. For how long will take debtors to pay us, because we are always doing e-accounting on the side of the business. So if I'm saying us, I'm referring to the business, right? So this is the ratio. This is a ratio that you see average debtors. So which means it's a data for last year. You must always start with last year and then plus this year, not another way around, because we are going forward, right? And divide by credit sales. And then you get your answer in days. Also, nale creditors payment, we are saying average creditors divide by credit purchases. Credit purchases times by 365 or 366 over 1. So the answer here, mfundi, will be something days. The answer will be days. Please again, balekile ukuthi uwazi. So sesiwaqedile ke ama ratio under liquidity define for 2 marks. You can come across that question. Define what is liquidity. Sichazile ukuthi liquidity occurs whereby the business is having the product in a short run, right? That's a definition of the liquidity here. Yes, now let's try corner. Yes, what is liquidity, right? Liquidity occurs whereby the business is having the problem in a short run. And then the first ratio under this group, it's a current ratio, right? Current assets is to current liabilities. Acid test ratio or quick ratio. Current asset less inventory here, that is less, must minus that inventory. Okay, and then is to current liabilities, right? And then stock turnover rate as well as stock holding, cost of sales. Cost of sales, the numerator divided by average stock, and then the answer is something time there. Stock holding, average stock, the stock from last year plus the one of this year, and then you divide by 2, divide by the cost of sales, you times by the actual number of days in that particular year, that is 366 or 365. Then the answer is something days. And then basobale nathi besiyenza manje ke yama debtors nama creditors ukuthi okay thina ke as a business on the creditors payment uthatha isikhathi esinganani ukuthi sibakhokhele abantu esibakweletayo, people that we bought goods on credit, purchase goods on credit, right? So our suppliers. So if we want to check that, we have to use this ratio. And then for our debtors who are owing us, there's the ratio, the average debtors divided by credit sales. Okay, can I just emphasize kule issue yama credit sales as well as credit purchases? Ukuthi question paper ibuzwa kanjani, ngeke uyinikezwe kubhalwe all the time to credit sales. Sometimes uzofuneka uwacalculate ama credit sales. Remember lama figures lawa they are coming from the income statement or to the abstract of the income statement. Income statement ecashuniwe that is suitable for you to do equation paper or to do this question. Lapha kuzobhala maybe let's say income statement or abstract of the income statement, right? Bese bayabhala sales, cost of sales, gross profit ngiyalinganisa, gross profit, okay, gross profit. Not always ukuthi izoba simple lento le. Bese bayabhala mhlawumbe in brackets mfundi. Kuthiwa in brackets kuthiwa 60% is cash. And then bese bakunikeza total sales, let's say total sales here is 500,000, 500,000. These are the total sales, right? And then you do have other figures here for a gross profit. You also even have other figures here for a cost of sales. So kukwena ukuthi uyabona la 60% is for cash ama sales la. So it's obvious credit says 40%. So you're going to take now your calculator now mfundi. 4,500 it is 1,000 times by 40% times by 40 divided by 100. So you get 200,000. 200,000 here would be our credit sales. There's a figure that you're going to write it here, mfundi. Okay, so balala. It's our credit sales. Okay, that would be our credit sales. 200,000, and then it would be our credit sales. So it would be not always like simple. See, you'll be given a percentage maybe of cash or maybe total sales and the credit. Therefore, you know how to get it even from the cash budget. Okay, so let's with the group here. Liquidity. Let's go to the solvency now. Solvency. Let's go to the solvency. The solvency definition yakhona is similar to the liquidity. Define what is solvency for 2 marks. Right, solvency. Question ongayithola for 2 marks mfundi. Solvency occurs whereby the business is having problem in the long run. Remember, on liquidity, we are saying occurs whereby the business is having the problem in a short run. Here, we're talking about the long run, right? In the long run. Long run. This is a long run. Right, this is a long run. So, we have only one ratio here and a group. So, solvency ratio, right? We go to the solvency, right? So, solvency. So, the formula here, okay, this is total assets is to total liability. Right, as you see here, it's total lapha kanti bekungama current. It was for now. Current means short, right? So it was, we're taking the current assets on liquidity. Here we're taking the total because we're looking for the long run. So we always calculate the prefix and then the suffix here, it's 1. So everything is to 1. Maybe let's say 2 is to 1. For example, let's say e.g. 2 is to 1 or 2,5 is to 1. Okay, so we're done with this group. This is C, group C of the ratio solvency. And then again, asiqhubeke siye kwi ratio yama risk, right? Let's say D, risk ratio. Okay, we call it risk or what? Debt equity. Right, debt equity, debt or equity ratio, right? The risk or debt or equity ratio. If we want to check out risk, how big is the risk? I-risk ingakanani ebhizinisini lethu? Sikwe risk. Remember, uqala ibhizinisi kuyi-risk. Kodwa kufanele uyi-check i-risk ukuthi ingakanani. Right, i-risk will be always there, right? I-risk nje, even noma usuka uhamba usuka kini uye esikoleni kuyi-risk lokho. Ngoba ungawa noma uqhuzuke i-risk. So kodwa kufanele siyi-check i-risk ebhizinisini. Formula la is very simple. Non-current liabilities is 2. Note number 7, note number 8. Note number 7 plus note number 8. Kambe, what is note number 7 and note number 8 collectively? Shareholders' equity. Okay, we can say here shareholders' equity. Shareholders' equity. Shareholders' equity. Mawuthanda ungabhala. Shareholders' equity. Shareholders' equity, right? So i-risk must be always below than 1, right? Because equation abayithandayo la makuthiwa use a ratio. Okay, calculate the risk of the business. Okay, this is a risk. This is the ratio or debt equity ratio. Non-current liabilities, normally it can be loan or mortgage bond or mortgage loan. Is 2. Note number 7, that is ordinary share capital, plus note number 8, retained income. What this year, unless if bashilo go to bala also for both years, right? E-risk must be always below than 1. Maybe let's say, for instance, here, e.g., we have 0.5. With 0.5, it's half, right? 0.5 is to 1, right? 0.5 is to 1. So maybe we actually equation it. Can the business be given the loan? Use a ratio or use 2 ratios. I'll show you later if they are saying 2 ratios, which one. But one of the ratio that is this one, right? Debt equity ratio. So 0.5 is to 1, right? So risk here is controllable. Not good is not there, is there, but it's controllable, right? So which means if risk is below than 1, right? If risk is below than 1, chaza ukuthi iyamanageka that risk. Yabo bokubona mhlambe let's say uwela emfuleni thothi amanzi manje aseza la esifubeni kanti mayilapha ezathi kwamadolo at least uyakwazi ukuthi ungabalance lapho yabona. So risk is high now amanzi mayisezela esifubeni yabona. So that's what you are basically doing here, right? Risk here it's at a lower degree. So a question that you can get or can come across here, they can say, can the business be given the loan? Then you can say yes. Reason, the risk here is at a lower degree. Very important, right? You can say yes. Okay, let me just write this question and then we write the answer. Can the business be given the loan? Let's say based on this information. This is a question here. Can the business be given the loan? Then we are saying for 3 marks, you can say yes, and therefore you have to motivate, manje, right? Yes, comma, the risk is at a lower degree. The risk is at a lower degree. Risk, as long as risk is below than 1, it's at a lower degree. Even if it's 0.9, 0.9 it's a point that is close to 1. Still, the problem when let's say risk is 1:1. You see, once now it's 1:1, it's not okay. Or 1.5:1, it's not okay. You cannot be given the loan here. Risk here is at the high degree. There will be no way where you can be given a loan here, because we are unable of controlling the risk. But 0.5, even 0.9 is to 1, still fine. 0.5 is still fine. Once you see risk 1:1 or 1, something is to 1, no, the business cannot be given the loan. In this case, the risk is at the higher degree. Balekile mfundi ukuthi ke uyazi ke le question because bathanda kakhulu ukuthi bayibuze. Okay, siyaqhubeka ke ngoma groups. Sesamanje ku D, we are done with UD, siya ku E manje. Right. We are still on the groups. So le esiphuma kuyona E is just only one and equi group risk, right? Debt equity ratio no C futhi solvency E ratio E group futhi ngokwayo. And then let's go to the earnings. Hayi bathanda ke lawa ngiyaza sale la mfundi. Earnings ngiyaza sale nanini lawa bathanda kakhulu and bayazi ukuthi abafundi namanje abawa understand kahle kanti asimple lama ratio lawo, right? Thiwa kwaXhosa ke abawachani, funeni wachane ke niwabambe kahle, right? That is earnings. So we have an EPS. Remember, when you come to the ratios, you are allowed to abbreviate. That is an earnings per share. Earnings per share. And then we have DPS, dividends per share. Dividends, okay, let me just write it down here. Dividends per share. The dividends per share, or we call it DPS. DPS. Here we are saying EPS. Right, EPS. And then we also have net asset value. Net asset value. So that is NAV, or they call it NAV. Right, NAV. These are earnings. Number ratios earnings. How much are we going to earn? So what are we calculating here? It's nothing but money. It can be in a form of rands or in a form of cents, right? Let's look what is common among these three ratios. Okay, buphi ubudlelwane obukhona lama ratios lawa omathathu okuthiwa ngama earnings. Okay, zintathu izinto la ezibalekile ezicommon ufuneka uzazi, kufuneka ukuthi manje awusalala ukuthonga ngoba nakho ama ratios awazi ama formula khona simple kakhulu, ngizokwenza nje ukuthi uwabambe ungaphinde futhi uwakhohle mfundi. So into yokuqala ebalekile la mfundi efanako lama ratios lawa omathathu yini? I-denominator, right? La ngezansi yini? We are all dividing these ratios by what? We divide by number of shares issued at the end of the year, right? So the denominator here, it's what? Number of shares issued end of year, right? We divide by number of shares onke lama ratios lawo. Okay, nala futhi nala, right? Number of shares, okay, what is our denominator? Number of shares issued at the end of the year, Uzothatha ke iphike le number of shares at the end of the year on note number 7, ordinary share capital, right? That's why you're going to get this one. If awalokhu uzanga lapho, then uzobe uwanikeziwe in the information the number of shares issued at the end of the year. Nala futhi you do the same, divide by number of shares issued at end of year, right? We divide by number of shares issued at the end of the year. And then another thing, you times it, you must times it by 100, divide by 1. So there's another second common factor. Times here by 100 over 1. Even nala, you times by 100 over 1, right? And then the answer is something cents. So the answer esizoyithola la sibala ini ama cents. Okay, let me just put this one in the border, right? Siphinde futhi sifake nale kwi-border so asizobona kahle. Okay, the answer esizoyithola here is something cents mfundi, something cents. So thola i-answer yethu in a form of cents. Okay, so cents, or you can say rands. Okay, even nala, the answer will be something cents. But now we cannot get the answer because we don't know what is the numerator there. Okay, let's just go on the numerator for the EPS. Let me just show you how easy it is, the numerator for the EPS. Okay, let's say for instance, siya operator la si business, nanti business lethu Ithala business lethu Ithala okay, let's say Ithala Bank or just Ithala nama stakeholders, people who are having an interest with Ithala, right? We call it the stakeholders, right? So there is the number one stakeholder, the shareholders, people who are owning, shareholders, right? Nama shareholders, sibe no SARS, South African Revenue of Services, right? Sibe nama trade unions, these are the stakeholders, trade unions. We have investors, right? Investors, right? We have potential investors, right? Competitors, okay? Competitors, potential investors, creditors, directors, okay? Potential investors. You can get this question as well in terms of problem solving or in terms of auditing. That can say, other than the shareholder, who else might have an interest in our business? They like that question as well. Other than the shareholder, who else might have an interest, and explain. So now we're going to say trade union. The trade union, for instance, they're only pushing only two agendas, only two things. It's remuneration as well as the safe working condition. That's why even ikole sivaliwe nje as we speak for ama lower grades. Ngoba i-trade unions ayakhala athi no akukho safe ukusebenza ekoleni. Trade unions, it's all about remuneration, wages and salaries, as well as the safety working condition. And then USARS, they're only checking whether are you paying a tax or are you dodging a tax evasion or tax avoidance. That is their interest, right? Investors, they want to check whether are you making a profit or loss, right? Potential investors, what kind of investors are potential investors? Potential investors are investors that are not yet invested but are having an interest. For instance, let's say a parent who want a space for, okay, yes, let's say khona umzali esikoleni ofunela ingane yakhe isikhala mhlawumbe for grade 8 for next year, right? Lo mzali lo akabisiyo umzali wasesikoleni kodwa uyi-potential ukuthi angaba umzali if engawushintshanga umqondo noma yonke into ihambe ngokufisa kwakhe. Okay, so that is yonke ama stakeholders lawo. So as soon as we get the money or as soon as we make our sales as a business, the number one stakeholder ofuneka simkhokhele ubani? USARS before anything else, right? Once we are done with our sales, the first person among the stakeholders, right? Despite the fact that our shareholders, for instance, our shareholders are the owners of the business, right? But there are people who are directors, okuyibona abaphathi abarana business on daily basis, right? Or to our directors. But our shareholders afaka imali most of the time. Utho ukuthi ke mhlambe bahlangana kwi-AGM, kuyinkongola noma kwi-conference ebizwa mhlambe once a year, yabona. But then bakhona abantu abarana business on daily basis malanga onke othiwa ama directors. Kodwa as soon as sithola imali, abantu bokuqala ufuna sibakhokhele ubani? USARS. So ama ratios anjalo. I-numerator la ya kwi EPS, it's an earnings per share. So which means we are not going to earn as shareholders unless otherwise we do what? We pay SARS. So which means the numerator here is what? Net profit after tax. So net profit after tax. Net profit after tax. We are not going to earn anything unless otherwise we pay SARS. So okay, first thing first, before we earn, as well as saying earnings, we pay SARS. And then when you come to the dividends, we have interim, or we say it's paid, plus final. Okay, ngizochaza ukuthi yini ama interim plus final dividends, or we call it declared, or sometimes we're saying these are recommended. These are the terms. Ama interim dividends, maybe after let's say we've been operating, maybe after 6 months of operation, and then bese time kwajabulisa ama shareholders wethu sibakhokhele sibanikeze inzuzo etholakele ama dividends. Remember, we don't say profit kuma companies, sithi yini? Ama dividends. Mabethenga ama shareholders ne sithi ama dividends. Maybe like after 6 months besithi hayi awukho sibajabulisa banezwe uthatha, then siphinde futhi sibaphinde kuphela konyaka kuthiwa yini? It's a final, that one, or it's a declared or recommended. So that is our numerator there. And then we NAV, net asset value, right? NAV. What is the numerator here? Note number 7 plus note number 8. That is our numerator there. Remember, we said note number 7 and note number 8 with debt equity ratio. Let's go back on the debt equity ratio. Now, say what it note number 7 and note number 8 collectively is equal to what? Shareholders equity. shareholders equity. Shareholders equity. So here we have what? Shareholders equity. That is shareholders equity. So which means a total of ordinary share capital plus retained income, right? And then our answer here is something sense. That's a common factor about all these three ratios, esibiza ngokuthi ama earnings. Then bese bakhona amabili okugcina ke mfundi. Isikhathi, okay. Sele nje amabili okugcina senze wona okuthiwa ama returns. Isikhathi sedliwe yinja. Right. Let's look at the returns. Okay, the returns. Ngiyathanda kakhulu ke lama ratios lawa. Awasali ke futhi. Ngoba ababa metric ke impela ke lawo, right? We have ini sithi return on return on shareholders equity on shareholders equity, or we call it ROSH, or IROSH, or we call it IROSHE, right? IROSH or IROSHE, okay, equity, right? And then another one, any city, return on total capital employed, right? Or we call this one sibiza ngothini iROIS. Remember, you are allowed, uvumelekile ukuthi ungi-abbreviate kuma ratios mfundi, uvumelekile kuma ratios ukuthi ungabhala ROSHE or ROSH or ROIS. Okay, as-check la ukuthi yini e-common mfundi between these two ratios, right? What is common between these two ratios? Quickly. Okay. What is common here? It's an average. Average, you divide by the average. Here, we divide by average. Note number, let's say 2019. Note number 7 plus note number 8. That is shareholders equity plus 2020. Note number 7 plus note number 8 shareholders equity. You divide by 2. Right. And then la ezansi mfundi note number 7 plus note number 80 plus unan, this is 2019, non-current liability, right? You do this plus 2020, note number 7 plus note number 80 plus non-current liability, right? That is our denominator right here. And then in numerator yethu lapha kwi-ROSH iyafana nawe EPS. There will be no return unless otherwise we pay SAS. So we share net profit after tax. Here it's an opposite, net profit before the tax plus interest paid or just interest, right? So you times by 100 over 1. The answer sizoyithola here is something percent because I'm a return. Nala futhi, okay, don't forget here to divide by 2, right? Or just half. You times by 100 over 1. So the answer here is something percent, right? Now ama ratios mfundi wenza kanje nje akukho okunye ofuneke ukuthi ukusebenzise mfundi ngawuthi njengamanje ngikwazile ukuthi ngibonise indlela esimple yokwenza ama ratio noma elula. So ngesikhathi ezayo ke sizokwazi ukuthi senze equation kuona futhi ama ratios noma izinkomba zokuthi ibhizinisi lithatha yipi yona i-direction noma likumuphi umkhombandlela, either lenze profit noma lenza i-loss. Siyabonga ke kakhulu nitshele nabangani benu nabanye nifunda nabo ukuthi ugwansile kufuneke nize kuwona nizothola ulwazi ukuze nikwazi ukuthi niphumelele. Siyabonga kakhulu bafundi bakaMatebelejeni. Thank you.
Siyathemba nifunde kahle nasithokozela isifundo sethu sanamhlanje. Enisethulelwe ngezilokotho ezinhle Ithala libambisene ne-GoDigitalSA Foundation. Thamelani ke futhi esilandelayo ngesikhathi sifanayo. Ningakhohlwa ukumema nabanye abafundi bebanga le-12 ukuze nabo basizakale kulolu hlelo. Uma ninemibuzo noma nifisa ukuxhumana nathi, ningasithinta ngokufaka imibuzo yenu kwinombolo yethu ye-WhatsApp ethi 068 151 1072. Mfundi, ungakhohlwa ukubhala isifundo obuza ngaso ngaphambi kokubhala umbuzo wakho. Angiyiphinde inamba yethu 068 151 1072. Siyabonga.